is up and what is good, YouTube? It has been a minute since my last review, so I thought I would bring this one to you today. I'm extremely excited about it because this is one of the more crazy situations that I have ever had or encountered while doing these review videos. And so, you know, we're going to stay true to the format of the channel and go right down our checklist, and I'll explain kind of what I'm talking about. So these shoes were purchased from men's_trainers. For a total cost of $57.61. They were $46.15 with $11.46 shipping. This is where things get a little crazy. Checkout was smooth, got a great deal on them. Obviously, they were $57.61. However, things started to get a little bit crazy after that. So normal lead time on a pair of J's from all the replica shoes that I've ever reviewed or got my hands on is about 30 days, about 4 weeks, about a month, however you want to phrase it, give or take. You can be, you know, I've had them arrive in 2 weeks before, and I've had them arrive in 6 weeks before, but it's normally like 30 days is that sweet spot. After you order them, you can, even with COVID, expect to get them in about a month. These shoes were ordered on September 2nd of 2021, and they arrived 12/20 of 2021. That is 110 days it took to receive these shoes. Not only that, but after 2 months, the seller was contacted because the shipping transaction history for these shoes stalled out. Basically, once they were purchased, a tracking number was generated and the shoes left the seller's warehouse, and you could see that on the tracking history. But once they got to what they refer to as the regional sort facility, they stalled, they sat. There was no more tracking history. And that sat that way for 2 months. And so at that point, DHgate was contacted and a grievance was filed. Basically, a request for a refund was initiated because the shoes were essentially lost during shipping. The seller kept asking for patience. Please be patient, please be patient. You know, give us another week, give us another 2 weeks, the shoes will arrive. Another 2 weeks went by, stalled out shipping, you know, tracking history, no movement on the shoes whatsoever. So after that, DHgate requested verification that the shoes had not been received and that there was no progress on the shipping front. And so a simple screenshot of the tracking history emailed to DHgate, and the shoes were refunded 100%. And so in my mind, that was the end of the transaction. That was sometime in early November that all of that took place. It was like the second week of November. It was before Thanksgiving. And I'm doing this review and we're like 5 days till Christmas. And so I thought that was the end of it. And I came home today, and my neighbor knocked on my door and had these shoes in her hand. And so it just kind of shows you, you know, you're taking big gambles when you purchase these shoes. You're not buying them from a big box store, a famous store, you know, like Foot Locker or Champs or whatever. There is very, very poor customer service. Nobody speaks fluent English. It's all very broken English, and also the chain of command and just the day-to-day business operations. These companies are making counterfeit products. They don't have the best business strategies and approaches to shipping logistics and things like that. And so while, you know, we came out on the good end of this here and we were refunded and received the shoes, that's not always going to be the case. You might not receive that refund, and you might not receive your shoes. And furthermore, as you can see here, look at the condition of this package. This is how I received this. These shoes are not boxed, and this is why I'm excited to do this today, because not only was the entire ordering process a complete circus, but you know, I'm really excited to do, I can't even call it an unboxing video because there's no box. But I am excited to open these in front of you today. And, you know, this is a different experience than any other experience that I've ever had while reviewing these Replica J's. So with all that information, let's get into the juicy good part of it and open these up. So we went over the first 3 points. Initial impressions. I haven't even opened these from the package yet, and I'm already obviously extremely unimpressed. Not only is there a big hole in my package, which thank God, you know, one of the sneakers didn't fall out, because that's easy to get that out of there. And I'm wondering if, you know, with the holidays being so close, with Christmas being right around the corner, there's so much theft, you know, at the post office and whatever. I'm wondering if this didn't happen from somebody at the post office scanning to see what was inside here to see if they were interested in stealing it or whatever. That would be my best guess. However, the fact that these weren't boxed, that's, you know, an issue on the seller's end. I've never reviewed a pair of replica Jordans that didn't have a box before. And so I'm interested to see if there's a quality difference, because this is obviously a low-end seller. And most of the sellers that I review shoes for are low-end anyways. They're in the $60 price range, but they at least pay attention to sending you a box. So this seems to be like the lowest of the low. So anyhow, already, as I was starting to say, not very impressed with the experience as well as the quality here. All right, so I froze up a little bit because as I'm pulling these out, they look pretty good. I see a couple things already. I'm big on initial impressions, because the reason I'm big on initial impressions is because that's what you're gonna get. The whole point of this channel, anybody that follows me or has seen my reviews before, the whole point of my channel is to see if you can buy the cheapest of the cheap. I know that you can get UAs or AAAs or 1-for-1 reps, whatever you want to refer to them as, but that's not the point of my channel. Again, anybody that follows the channel, I'm sorry if I sound like a broken record, but I've never seen the sense in paying $180 or $200 or even more for a pair of fake Jordans when you can get the real thing for that much money. And I understand that sometimes you miss out because things are so limited and you know, the websites crash or whatever on drop days, but the StockX in eBay exist, and they have very good verification platforms that they use to make sure that you're buying authentic Jordans, and you can still get them for very close to that price point on the secondary market. And so rather than pay $220 and potentially have an experience like this and not get your shoes, or get something that's really, really poor quality when you were expecting something that was of 1-for-1 quality, and then not having a return policy because they came from a company that makes counterfeit shoes, I just never recommend spending a lot of money on Jordans. I understand people do it, but I'm just voicing my thought process on the matter. So I'm always excited to try and get the cheapest of the cheap and see if they can still pass off. And so, as I was saying, I'm big on the initial impressions, because this is what people are gonna see, that initial impression. When you have these on your feet, that's what you're getting. You're getting initial impressions. And so, the shoes look pretty good. They are a little bit out of shape and crushed because of the way that they were, shipped without a box. There is, not even taking a lot of time, glue residue present here. The rhombus, I've seen like really bad ones where this is actually fabric material. Some people get real hung up on the shape of this mesh portion of the shoe here. Like, it's not the correct, like, you're not gonna wear these out. I mean, you're gonna have like 1 in 100 people that's gonna say like the shape of this is incorrect if you actually have these on your feet and you're out in public. And so, to me, it's not really the end of the world if this might be a couple centimeters off the proper angle. The mesh rubber feels really, really good. I'm looking for major defects. I'm looking for things where it's supposed to be there and it's not present on the shoe. Or, just egregious defects that are really gonna instantly get you called out by, not everybody is a professional shoe reviewer, including myself. I do this for fun as a hobby. But I do know, there's supposed to be a jump man on the tongue on the fours. It's there. Now, does it look good? That's something once we take a deeper look into these shoes that we'll determine. But, just making sure that the major things that are on the shoe that are supposed to be present are present. So the mesh netting looks good. No huge egregious defects. I mean, that glue residue is really bad. I'm going to try and get that off with some rubbing alcohol or maybe even paint thinner and see if I can have some success with that. The bottom of the shoe looks fantastic. That Jumpman logo looks really, really good. Super clean on the bottom, like no, you know, I did a review on some Carmines where like the rubber was like degrading, disintegrating on the bottom, and it was just a complete disaster. But you know, everything appears to be present on these shoes. I will say, just from having reviewed other Replica 4s in the past, the shoe lace, I'll refer to them as eyelets. You can see that the tabs are only popped out on some. I did a review on some Fire Red 4s. If you take a toothpick and you remove the laces from the shoes, you can punch those right out. You can see here where it's solid. That's not, I mean, there you go, that's a good view of it. You see 2 of them there are still present. That's on all 4 of the eyelets on both shoes. So, you know, they do punch out. You just have to take, like I say, a toothpick and remove the laces and take your time. But, you know, these are, I always talk about quality control issues. This is a $57 pair of Replica Jordans versus a $220 pair of authentic J's. You know, to me, that's not a big issue having to take a toothpick if you're going to save that much money and get something that looks like the real thing. And so what we're going to do here, initial impressions based on everything that I just told you and based on, you know, what I'm seeing here, I'm actually surprisingly impressed. So what I like to do, anybody that's familiar with the channel knows, I like to walk away for a second, put these on my feet, walk around for about an hour with them, make sure the arches are in the right spot, the feel's good. Let's do our smell test real quick. Oh, those smell really good. Exceptionally good, to be honest with you. Not having a box, not being in something that's going to keep that smell, you know, trapped in the shoe, those smell really, really good, like a brand new pair of sneakers that you would buy from Foot Locker. So again, we'll try these on, we'll walk away for a little bit. I'll look them over really, really good and see if I can do or find any more defects than what we noticed on our initial impressions. And then we'll talk about any differences from OG. We'll give them a 1 to 10 rating as far as quality, just based on the shoe itself, and then the pass fail grade. All right, see you in a minute. All right, everybody, we are back. I had these on my feet for about an hour walking around the house to do the on-foot feel test. As I always do, you know, did a couple quick jump cuts and, you know, tested, make sure the arches were in the right spot, the air bladders weren't blown out of the air pockets in the soles or whatever, and looked them over a little bit better than what we did on the initial impressions to see if we could identify any more defects. One thing I noticed, if the camera will pick it up, that blue portion where it meets the white leather right here is pretty ratty. You guys can see that right there. It's like it didn't adhere all the way, and there's a little bit of gap between the white leather. Now that Jordan logo looks pretty bad from that angle, but it is a little off center. However, you know, if you guys want to point out that he's got a little belly, because that's in a lot of these reviews I've done, a lot of these Jordan logos get criticized as being inaccurate. Google image search. These are a replica version of the 2012 Military 4 Jordans. If you go ahead and do a Google image search, that is exactly how the OG, I mean, that is a 1-for-1 replica of how the OG Jordan logo appeared on the 2012 Military 4s. His head was kind of slanted at an angle, and he had the little Buddha belly. So while that might not look like the greatest Jordan logo, that is actually accurate on how the Jordan logo should be. I had another review on some Fire Red 4s, and the Jordan logo on the tongue got a little bit of criticized. Somebody called his arm like a straight, stiff arm, or a 2x4 arm is how I've always reviewed and referred to them as, and when it's real stiff like that. That is actually accurate. If you look at the 2012 Military Jordan 4s on the tongue, that is exactly how the logo appears. So I am extremely impressed with the attention to detail and the accuracy on all of the Jordan logos on this shoe. In my opinion, that's a pretty poor looking Jumpman, but as far as trying to get away with a rep that's like legitimate, that is accurate. That's how it should look. I much prefer a Jumpman logo that looks like that. you know, where there's a little bit of detail in the arm and it's not so straight and 2x4. However, on the fours, like I say, Google image search it. That's actually accurate. That arm, that's how that should appear. So I'm very impressed. And one of the other things I want to make mention of too here, before we go any further, is the blue hue. I did a review on some Flu Game 12s, and they failed resoundingly because the red was wrong. It's kind of appearing on the computer to be a little bit more deeper blue than what it really is. Here in my office, looking at it with this light, this Jordan in this colorway is actually my favorite Jordan of all time. I feel like every review I do, I'm like, this is one of my favorite J's. This is my #1 favorite Jordan of all time, as far as I love the 4s. They're my favorite model. And then this is my favorite colorway of the 4s. And so I know a lot about this shoe. This color it's spot on. It's kind of changed a couple times over the years, I feel like, from different from the OG to some of the retros that have come out over the years, and they're rumored to be coming out again next year, 2022. But I do feel like this blue is not properly translating on the computer as what it looks like in real life, and this is the authentic, you know, blue hue that the 2012s, which is what this replica is based off of, should be. So differences from OG, I see none. Everything that is supposed to be on this shoe, the tongue tag that says Air Jordan, you know, that from the 2012 model, it doesn't say Nike. There are different, like I say, replica or retro versions of the military 4s that are out there, and some say Nike. The 2012 version, which is what this is, actually has the Jumpman on the back. So there are no differences from the OG as compared to this shoe here. Everything that is supposed to be there is there. The 1 to 10 quality rating. Now, it's like I said, I was really anxious to get to this part of the review because of how poorly they were packaged and how poorly just this whole process has gone. That said, you know, again, to show you the delamination a little bit on the bottom sole back there, some of the glue residue right here on this right shoe is present, and then on this outer right shoe, a little bit sloppy paint. I want to make sure I'm getting it right there. Other than those 3 defects, which again, I pull them back from here and, you know, give you a real life, you know, view of what they're going to be looking like, and that tongue is not as poorly shaped. I mean, these shoes were shipped with no box, so, you know, once you put them on your feet, they hold shape a lot better. So don't get bent up, because a lot of people look at these and they're like, look how bad, in the comments after these reviews. You know, the tongue and stuff is, they will take shape and you can manipulate them however you want. And once you put them on, when I had them on my feet, they looked the proper shapes. It's just they were shipped with no box and they're a little crushed. But the 1 to 10 quality rating on these, I'm gonna give them an 8.5, just because it is a little bit sloppy. They're not the cleanest. The fire red 4s that I reviewed were super clean. There was like a small red spot on the sole that I was actually able to wipe off. And the same thing here with these eyelets. These are not as clean as those, but as far as like the quality of the shoe, I actually feel like they're darn near every bit as quality. The on-foot feel was perfect. The arches were in the right spot. I will say, compared to those fire red 4s that I reviewed also, these felt a little bit lighter. I don't think the materials are as dense. I think I made note of the fire red 4s that I reviewed being like 1 for 1 as far as weight. These did feel a little bit lighter, and the 4s are definitely notorious for getting creases in the toe box, and I feel like these are definitely going to be showing some significant creases, being that they are a little bit lighter after only a few wears. And so that's always one of those things that's prevalent when you're buying replica J's. They're not going to last as long as a pair of OGs because the materials that are used to build them aren't as quality, and so the shoes break down and degrade a lot faster. That said, gets us to the all-important pass-fail rating. Do I think these nightmare horror story 110 days to get $57.61 no box replicas from DHgate could pass as a real pair of J's around somebody who knew what they were looking for? Yes, I do. I give them a pass grade. I can't believe it, to be honest with you. I know that I'm going to be able to get this glue residue off because I didn't take paint thinner or rubbing alcohol to it yet, but I was able to scratch a little bit off of my finger when I walked away. That's not going to be an issue. This, I mean, I got to put this up against the camera for you to be able to see that. And once I pull it a couple feet away, and I mean, I'm probably 2 feet away from my face right now just with my arm pulling out, it doesn't jump right out at you. It's not something that's like especially when you're out in public walking around, nobody's catching that. So while they are not perfect, and we're going over them here, I mean, I'm sticking them up to your face in the camera, you know, and again, that I gotta like manipulate it and hold it the right way so that you can see it's sloppy, but like I pull it this far away and it looks perfect. And that's real life conditions. I mean, when I'm out wearing these on my feet, you know, those people aren't this close to your shoe looking at them. And especially when you're moving around and, you know, people are, I'm a short dude, I'm like 5'7". So, you know, somebody who's 6 foot tall, they're gonna be 6 feet away from your feet. I pull these 2 feet away from my face and the defects disappear. So, you know, unless people are getting down on all fours, they're not gonna catch that little stuff. I just like to point it out to you in the review videos so that you know what to expect. And you know, so that you know some of the quality oversights that you get, and you know what to look for when you see or purchase a pair of replicas. But you know, all in all, it was a very different experience than what I'm used to, but turned out to be a win. I mean, at the end of the day, they were $0, and I think it's a plausible pair of replicas. And so I hope this was entertaining and that you guys might have found it useful. Thank you for watching, and as always, please like, subscribe, comment below. Your support's what makes these videos possible, and I'd like to bring you as many as I could. So, until next time, peace.